Good morning. I think you all know me. If not, I'm Susan Guiton. I'm with Human Resources, and it's good to see you. You are my people, so I love you, kind of my extended family. All the stories, of course, we're telling today are very, very personal. So feel privileged that we feel comfortable enough to stand outside the box of stigma and to make a difference. So suicide, kind of interesting that we leave suicide as the last subject here with brave faces, but there's a reason for that. First, let me tell you a little bit about me growing up. When I grew up, I was raised that, or thought to believe, that suicide only happened on the other side of the tracks. That suicide only happened to those in poverty. That suicide only happened if you were addicted to drugs or were an alcoholic, or it was a certain political party, perhaps. But on December 6th, 11 years ago, found out I was very wrong. See, our sweet, sweet Stephen Burt, first grandson born to our family, darling, loved him. A little spoiled, loved him. December 6th, 19 years old, struggling with identity of himself as far as time to grow up, time to make a good living, maybe get a family. And I think that was part of the struggle, because I think at 19, typically boys aren't making their bed, much less learning or making the decision to take a wife or to have a family, right? So in mid-November, 11 years ago, Stephen was invited to go to elk camp. So for those of you who are avid hunters and sportsmen, you know that's a big deal, because typically you're not invited until you're a certain age and you can handle it, because it's a lot of hiking, packing in, and it's pretty tough for a week. So Stephen went, and what was so exciting, you guys, is that he shot the prize-winning elk. No one else got one. So he was the hero, probably more in his own eyes, because I don't know how the other guys felt about it. But it was pretty cool, and if I could show you the picture, it would be amazing. You could totally identify, if you know any 19-year-old boy who got to do something better than the big guys, it was a big deal. You know, that's part of carving your own identity. About a couple weeks later, Stephen, his lifelong dog Skeeter, died. And that was a big deal. You know, sometimes it's so easy as parents to look back, and we know when to take our kids to the doctor, when they break their arm, or when they fall and scrape their knee, or when they need their immunizations, but maybe we don't recognize when they're hurting so bad from something that we think, you know, maybe we can get over, losing an animal. Well, I think looking back, that Stephen probably got to talk to Skeeter a lot easier than he did maybe parents or anyone else who would like to give their opinion on how he should live. So he struggled. He didn't want anyone to go with him when he buried the dog. He took Skeeter up to the top of a mountain and buried him alone. Mike and Sandy respected that, and I get that. But that might be something they look back and think, maybe we should have gone. So December 5th, Stephen approached his little sister Gracie and said, you know, I think it's time I grow up. I think it's time I get married, I have a life. And Gracie kind of told him, no, that's stupid. Don't do that, like little sisters would. But he did. He went and asked a young girl that he was dating for a very brief time, and I want to say it was just really a matter of just a couple months that he knew her. So he went and asked this little gal, Stephanie, to marry him, and she said yes. So he gave her his high school ring and football jacket, because Stephen was very, very active in football prior to graduating high school. The events that took place after December 5th, on December 6th, nobody could probably figure out what was the trigger. because you would think that Stephanie had said no by what happened the next day. Sandy got up the next morning, and Stephen was standing at the kitchen sink looking out at the view. They had a beautiful view. And she walked up and she patted Stephen on the belly. She remembers this really clearly. And Stephen was, gosh, I don't know, 6'5", and said, I love my boy. Those were the last words that Sandy said to Stephen. Now we can look back as a family and say, I'm so glad you got to say that to him. But the trigger, what happened, we don't know. See, that later that day, it was Christmas time, you guys. She wanted to stop and get a Christmas tree. So she picked Gracie up at school and went and got the tree, so she got home late. She didn't get home as planned. And by the time she got home, Stephen had committed suicide. And so the guilt and the struggle that comes with that. Every Christmas, you guys, every Christmas, every December 6th, every time we see a picture, she looks back to that and wonders, what if I didn't stop to get the Christmas tree? I've heard her say it more times than what I can imagine, what I can even count and tell you. So after that, the pain started, of course. The healing was years to come. It's been 11 years, and we've never said the word suicide in my sister's house. So you can imagine the ripples of suicide after it happened reach out far. 11 years, long time, you guys, big scars. But the healing came when Gracie got married. And 2 years ago, she gave birth to a little boy, Tatum. And so hope comes through even there's all this darkness, all this grief. Hope comes even in the midst of pain. And so my hope is today to share a story of the worst time in my family's life, to the point of that there's help out there. And you want to know where the help started, you guys? The coroner. Coroners are called to a job that I personally could never do, but they were the first ones to speak this, and this is good for drug and alcohol counselors. They told them, do not drink or take anything outside of something prescribed, of course, for a minimum of 6 months, because they wouldn't be dealing with the pain and they'd be using the alcohol or something else as maybe a sedative or something, I don't know. So they really abided by that. So to have the coroner go in and take that time, they spent hours with them that day at the house when all this happened, that was a real way of just speaking into someone's life that had just had the rug pulled out of them. And also something else to keep in mind too, the ripple effects. When Stephen died, that's final. You're not going to see Stephen again. You're not going to get the phone call. You're not going to send a birthday card. But what nobody could have prepared us for is the fact that Mike and Sandy and Gracie all died on that same day. You could look at them. You could talk to them. But there was nobody there. And so I think last year was the first year I got a Christmas card from my sister. And I swear I'm going to frame it and put it up on the wall, because it shows that she just had a peek into maybe some hope. But outside of that, you guys, we have employees that are struggling these days. You have coworkers that struggle with depression, that can't pay their bills. They've lost their homes because of the economy. Just in the last 6 months, we've had 4 employees lose their children to suicide. So I think it's important that as employees, we remember our rights. We remember the programs that the county offers, employee assistant program. I had several employees contact me yesterday after my afternoon talk, that I want you to know that there's mental health time out there. there's protected time to care for yourself, because self-care is so, so important during this time. So if you're struggling with depression and you're struggling with thoughts that just keep coming at you, or that the economy is just tearing you apart and your finances are bad, take just a minute to think about caring for yourself, and know that I'm an advocate for that. I'm here, I'm at my desk, I'll do whatever I need to do to talk you through it, and I even have some EAP information if you need that. And then also, I wanted to talk about a picture, and it kind of just portrays everything I've been saying. If you'll hang out with me here a second. See this picture? I'm wearing black, and it's all black in the back. Whiskey Town, the photographer took me up to Whiskey Town. We hiked up to the top of this mountain. It was hot out, but I had this big black turtleneck on. So what he wanted to do was create a picture to represent death. So if you saw the one picture of me in the river, did you see that? And it looked like I was almost floating there. I wasn't floating, I was drenched in the water. But it was supposed to represent me stuck in life, and my family stuck, and life just passing us by, and you're wondering, how am I going to get through all of the rapids? How am I going to make it through? And what are people going to think? So that's what that represented. But this was death, and so as the photographer was kind of fumbling with his camera and trying to set it up, I was kind of looking around the environment, and I noticed through all the ash, through all the burnt trees, there were these little teeny weeny sprigs of green sticking up, and little teeny weeny flowers. And though you had to look hard, it wasn't covering everywhere, but it reminded me that there's always hope, that we've all gone through a fire, and we've all felt that tinge of burn and that pain of death. But on the other side, there is hope. And even though it could take years, 11 years for my family, or maybe longer, that there's hope and there's help out there for you. So thank you very much. Thanks, you guys, for coming.